Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Nightfall Terrors. I know many of you enjoy using these videos to help you fall asleep, so before you start to drift off, it would be great if you could leave a comment sharing where you're listening from around the world. If you're enjoying the episodes, don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Now, let's get cozy, settle in, and begin. Every night, a different person walks down the street and cries out for help. We're not allowed to assist them. Looking back now, I feel foolish, truly. That apartment was suspiciously cheap, even for a studio. I should have known something was off. The day I moved in was a haze. I insisted on handling everything myself, mostly out of pride, wanting to prove my family wrong. By late afternoon, every muscle in my body ached and my head pounded. I collapsed onto the bare mattress, dazed, staring up at the ceiling fan. My forehead was damp with sweat, and I pulled my sticky hair back in frustration. Then there was a knock. I jumped, muttered a curse, and forced myself up on my elbows. Two girls peeked through my door. I'd foolishly left it wide open, forgetting the old college rule. Only do that if you want to meet people, and I definitely wasn't in the mood. One of them, an Asian girl with short, jagged black hair, grinned at me. The other lingered near the doorway, idly fiddling with a pack of Marlboro Reds. "Hey," she said casually, nodding. Her voice was smooth, but had a rough edge. "Just move in." I lay back and rubbed my face. "Yeah, 5 seconds ago." "Cool." They stepped in like they hadn't noticed or didn't care that I wasn't exactly welcoming them. The girl with the choppy hair traced the edge of my desk, then picked up a small ceramic duck from a box. "My grandma's," I offered, feeling oddly defensive. "Cute," she said, inspecting it. "Did they tell you yet?" the other girl asked, suddenly glancing around. She'd stashed the cigarettes in her back pocket and was toying with her red braids. "Gianna, give her a minute," the other one interjected. "She should know." "Yeah, but we haven't even asked her name." I stared at them. I hadn't even unpacked essentials, and here they were, handling my stuff and talking like I wasn't present. Honestly, I just wanted to nap. "I'm Arden," I said eventually. Gianna, the girl with the braids, plopped down beside me. "Did they tell you the rules?" "What rules?" "Of course not." I blinked. I knew the usual tenant responsibilities, but no one had mentioned any specific rules. I had barely skimmed the lease. The landlord, a gaunt woman who smelled like smoke and had never smiled, hadn't encouraged questions, and I hadn't asked any, especially not with rent that low. The other girl tried to redirect. "Where'd you move from?" I ignored her. "What rules?" Gianna smirked, bouncing slightly on my bed. The other girl let out a sigh and pulled out my chair. "Something happens every night," she explained as she sat. "Something strange." "Like what?" I asked, my curiosity finally surfacing. "Someone walks down the street," Gianna said, gesturing to the window. "That one there. It's a new person each time. They scream for help for about an hour, but we're not supposed to help." I just stared. A chill ran down my spine. "It's never at the same time," the other girl added quietly. "We can't predict it." "Why?" "We don't know," she said with a soft shrug. I scoffed, leaning forward. "That sounds made up." "Believe what you want," she replied. "You'll see." There was something in her eyes, earnest, unsettling, that made me hesitate. It seemed too bizarre to be real. Surely they were joking or trying to haze me. "We'll be back tonight," Gianna said firmly. "We'll show you." Before I could respond, she grabbed her friend's wrist, and they walked off. I followed them to the door and watched them disappear down the hallway. True to their word, they returned that evening, this time with 2 guys. One was lean and wore a snug black shirt and baggy jeans. My eyes caught on the silver heart-shaped locket around his neck. He smiled and introduced himself as Will. The other was shorter, heavier, clearly anxious. His name was Mateo. Gianna carried a wine bottle and that same crumpled cigarette pack. The girl I now guessed was May looked faintly apologetic. They all settled by the window, motioning for me to join. I sat between Will and May, unsure if I still felt intruded upon or just confused. "You all live here?" I asked as I accepted the wine. "Yeah," Will said with a weak smile. "This building's for the younger crowd." "They grouped us," Gianna cut in, lighting a cigarette. It didn't even occur to me to object. "Everyone's been sorted." "Don't mind her," Will said. "She's into conspiracies. It's not a theory," she snapped. Next door, middle-aged folks, mostly with kids. Across the street, all retirees. Not one 20-something over there. "May, back me up." So, her name was May. I studied. Her smoky eye makeup and the way her tied-up hair stuck out like little fireworks. "Quit it," May muttered, reaching for the wine. "You're going to freak her out." "I'm not scared." May shrugged like she didn't buy it. We passed the bottle. They joked and argued, clearly close friends. I felt like an outsider, though they were in my apartment. Will asked if I went to college. I said I had, but dropped out. They all gave understanding nods that just made me feel worse. By midnight I was buzzed, and my walls had started to fall. For the first time in a while I felt maybe I didn't have to be completely alone. I laughed at Gianna and Mateo's back and forth, shared a cigarette with May, and watched the smoke drift out my window. Then it happened. Our phones erupted with a blaring alarm, like an Amber Alert. The sound echoed through the neighborhood, hundreds of phones going off at once. I nearly jumped out of my skin. The screen read, "Do not interfere." "It's happening," Will whispered. His whole demeanor shifted. His voice trembled and his eyes were glassy. Mateo placed a hand on his shoulder. I looked at May. She was stubbing out our cigarette, shrinking away from the window. That feeling returned. A crawling chill that spread down my back. The room fell silent. Everyone was staring at the window behind me. The air had a strange charge to it. Or maybe it was just the sweat. We sat, frozen. Then, finally, I heard it, faint at first, distant, but growing louder. "Help, please, someone." I leaned forward, needing to see. From my 4th-floor window, it was hard to make out details, but I saw him, an old man in a hospital gown, staggering door to door, leaving a dark trail of blood behind him. "Please, I'm hurt." I turned to the others, shocked. "What is this?" May touched my arm gently. I pulled away. "Arden, don't. We have to help him. He's just a man. We can't. You have to trust us." I ignored her and leaned farther out. But before I could speak, I stopped. He had turned, facing our building, his head tilted back. I couldn't see his eyes, but I knew he was looking right at me. "Help me," he whispered. Then he screamed. Not a normal scream. It was raw, inhuman. It made my stomach churn. Blood poured from his arms, or rather arms should have been. Just bloody stumps. Fresh. He didn't move, only swayed slightly. His eyes still locked on mine. His voice turned into a chant. Please, 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 May. Yanked me away. I hit the floor, gasping. What is that? I whispered. We don't know, she replied, still watching Will, who was quietly crying. Mateo gripped his shoulder tightly. We just follow the rules. What if we don't? I asked. Will sobbed harder. Outside, the man wailed. Gianna shut the window, but it didn't muffle the sound. Do you want to tell her? Mateo asked Will. Will just shook his head, gripping his locket. Mateo turned to me. A few months ago, it got to Will's girlfriend. Shannon, Gianna added. Is Shannon, Will corrected softly. I swallowed hard. What happened? Mateo sighed. We were all here. The screams started, like always. But Shannon, she said it was different. She ran out. We couldn't stop her. He glanced at Will. The screaming had faded into the distance. And she vanished, just gone. I was quiet, trying to make sense of it. I thought it was a prank, but I had seen it. I felt it. Why doesn't anyone leave? He shrugged. Some can't afford to. Some just don't care. A few have left, but we all signed NDAs, so no one really talks. I frowned, recalling the lease. Maybe I had signed something without realizing. I told them I needed sleep. They understood, said their goodbyes, and left. As I lay in bed, I kept thinking of May's face. How quickly she had moved away from the window. Eventually, I fell asleep. The following weeks weren't easy. I spent more time with them, and they were right. No one in our building seemed older than 30, but next door, I saw older adults coming and going all the time. Settling in wasn't easy. The others had clearly been through this before. You could tell. They cared, sure, and it scared them, especially Will. But they'd learned to manage. You could see it in the way they sighed, drew the blinds, and dove back into their routines. I eventually started doing the same. Oddly enough, pretending it was normal made it feel a bit more bearable. Moving out wasn't really an option. I'd dropped out of college and hadn't landed a job yet. I was scraping by on the little savings I had left. Every night brought someone new. Some looked almost human. Others barely did. Some were covered in blood, with torn-up clothes that didn't make sense, while others could have passed for regular people. The worst were the kids. They ran like panicked animals, screaming and pounding on doors, begging for help. Their words varied. They're coming. I don't want to die. I'm sorry. There were always so many children. One night, half asleep, I heard an alarm, not a phone alert. This was loud, blaring, barely muffled by the window. Red lights flashed outside, filling the apartment. I didn't look. I was too afraid of what I might see. I just buried my head under the pillow and tried to fall back asleep. I learned about the theories. Gianna had a big one. She believed we were chosen, placed here by design, part of some twisted government experiment. She thought people were betting on us, watching to see which building interfered the least. See, that? She told me once in the hallway, coffee in hand. Cameras everywhere. I wasn't sure if I believed her. I spent most of my time with May. We'd sit on the front steps, smoking and watching people. It was strange how the neighborhood seemed so vibrant in daylight, yet turned completely eerie at night. We didn't talk much about the rules. Actually, we didn't talk that much in general. It was more about being there, quietly sharing space. Just when I began to feel like things were settling down, it happened. It started with a birthday cake. Happy birthday. May stepped inside and Mateo blasted a party horn. The paper tube smacked Will in the head, making May clutch her chest. Jesus, you know I hate surprises. Gianna laughed, walking up with a chocolate cake, sprinkled and messily iced with pink letters. Happy birthday, May. 24, she said, setting the cake on the dresser and slinging her arm around May. How's it feel? Terrible. That's the spirit. All right, Mateo cut in, slipping between them. Cake, then let's head out. Their tradition was to hit bars for birthdays. Technically, there wasn't a curfew, just a suggested return time of 10:30 p.m. Usually they made it back before the alarm or stayed out. We all had some cake. The guys took shots in the kitchen while I watched Gianna fix May's hair. I'd never really been into partying. In college, I usually hung outside talking with smokers. I didn't really do friend groups either, but this felt different. I watched them pile into Mateo's car. I squeezed into the back, hyper aware of how close I was to May. My other shoulder crushed against the door. Mateo's music was loud enough to rattle my skull, the air thick with perfume and smoke as we sped toward the city. But I liked it. I found myself laughing. And when May slid her hand under my arm, I didn't pull away. It was actually nice. The bars weren't my scene, but this time I could tolerate it. I took a few shots, went outside with them for smoke breaks, even danced under the low purple lights until my heels felt like torture devices. By the third bar, I didn't notice the pain anymore. That's when we squeezed into a dusty photo booth. Gianna reluctantly fed it $5, and we laughed, cheeks flushed, into the lens. After the photos printed, everyone slipped out, but May grabbed my wrist, nails a soft baby blue, tracing my skin. You never gave me a birthday gift, she whispered, breath brushing my face. If I had my glasses on, they'd have fogged. Before I could finish, she kissed me. It felt good, and then it didn't. Hey, Will called, pushing past a cluster of guys in leather jackets. Arden, where's everyone? I blinked. They were just here. Now, I couldn't see them. No clue. What's going on? He pushed through the last of the crowd. He looked tense, face flushed, sweat at his hairline. He held out his phone. First, his lock screen. A photo of him and a girl with strawberry blonde hair, laughing, beer bottles in hand. Then, the time, 1:47 a.m. It's late, he said. Let's find the others. We should head back. I got it then. He was scared. No alarm yet, but we were pushing it. The bars would close soon, and he wanted to leave before something happened. We searched the crowd. I was dizzy and clumsy on my feet, more buzzed than I realized. We found them out front, smoking again. Will explained. I stood there, swaying. The drive back was tense. Mateo had turned the music down. No laughter, no jokes, just silence. Will drove fast, in the dark. May held my hand. Just as we turned the final corner and spotted our building in the distance, it happened. All our phones lit up and vibrated. Gianna gasped, "Do not interfere." Mateo looked back, finger to his lips. Had this ever happened before? Judging by their reactions, no. It was different when it happened from my bedroom. This was worse. Now I was inside it. We weren't safe. We were part of it. Will slowed the car to a crawl. No one moved. No one breathed. In the orange glow of the street lamps, I saw Will's face. Pale. Motionless. If not for his foot on the brake, he could have been a statue. The car stopped. We all looked where he was looking. A silhouette. Too far to see clearly, but human-like. Limping slowly toward us. And then we heard it. "Help me," Gianna hissed. Will turned the car around. He didn't move, just stared ahead. Somehow we both knew it was too late. "Help me, please." Now we could tell. It was a girl. She wore a nightgown stained with blood, like that old man from my first night here. I couldn't tell if it was fresh or dry. For some reason, that detail bothered me. "Maybe," May whispered, her arm shaking against mine. "If we duck down and stay quiet, it won't see us." It was the only plan we had. I nodded and crouched behind the seat, knees aching. We all followed, except Will. He stayed up, still staring. When he spoke, it was barely a whisper. "Shannon." The name hung in the air, like a warning. "What?" Mateo asked. "That's Shannon," Will said, finally looking at him. I peeked over the seat. The figure was closer. I saw strawberry blonde hair, a round face, short legs, the girl from Will's lock screen. May gasped. "Dude," Mateo said slowly, "I know what you're thinking. Do not get out." Will looked dazed. "I have to help her." The figure screamed again. "Help me, please. It hurts." She was almost at the car, still hadn't seen us. "I have to help her," Will repeated, more certain now. Mateo grabbed his sleeve. "That's not Shannon." Will's eyes filled with the tears. "It is. I know you miss her. But don't do this." Their voices rose. May trembled against me. Gianna was quietly sobbing. Then the thing paused, turned its head slowly. Left, right, sniffing. Our arguing stopped. My heart pounded in my ears. I could see her face now. She was blind. Her eyes had been scooped out. Her face was torn and bloody. She drooled, moaning, but no tears came. It all happened too fast. Will yanked free, grabbed the door handle. Gianna screamed and Mateo lunged for the lock, missed. The door flew open. Will hit the pavement with a dull crunch. The creature turned and screamed, but instead of attacking, she backed away, arms raised like something might strike her. She spun around in panic. Then the alarm sounded. Worse now, right in our ears. Street lights flashed red. Mateo jumped into the front and slammed the car into drive. The tires squealed. Gianna yelled at him to go back. May cried into her hands. I just sat there, frozen. I didn't get it. I looked back, couldn't help it. Saw a van turn the corner in that blinding red light. Then nothing. That was a week or two ago, maybe longer. It's hard to tell now. We've barely spoken since. We did call the police. Nothing came of it. Whatever this is, it's bigger than we realize. I don't know if that was Shannon. I don't know what would be worse, if it was or if it wasn't. All I know is last night, I heard Will's voice outside my window, crying, begging for help. I didn't interfere. "Hey, Arden, there's someone on the phone for you. Can you come here?" I looked up from the book I'd been pretending to read, curled up on the window seat of my parents' kitchen. I barely noticed how tightly I'd folded myself. These days, my back ached like I'd aged decades overnight. My mom stood in the doorway, tapping her foot like she thought I wouldn't notice. One hand on her hip, the other holding the bulky landline. I blinked. On the landline, "Not everyone has a brand new phone, Arden. Just take it already." My hands cramping. I was surprised at how smoothly moving out of the apartments had gone, but not shocked that my parents had let me move back in. I expected more resistance from the landlord, but my parents, especially my mother, seemed almost relieved. It felt like she had been waiting for me to prove her right all along. When I told her I was coming home, she sighed softly, and I thought I heard a faint smile in her voice. "What happened now, honey?" I knew I couldn't really complain, and she knew it too. I'd reached my limit. After everything I had seen, I wasn't sure I could ever live on my own again. I stood and walked over to her, quietly thanking her as I took the phone. She huffed and stormed off, leaving me alone with the receiver. My face went blank, as if I already knew what was coming. "Hello, who is this?" "Hey, Arden." Her voice was sharp, carrying a simmering frustration beneath every word. But there was something else, a desperation. I felt my face pale. "Sorry to call you like this. You haven't been answering your cell, so I found this number in the phone book." Guilt stabbed at me like a hot knife. I glanced over at my cell phone on the kitchen table. I knew I was wrong, but I'd blocked all their numbers the day after I left. I didn't want to think about any of it. Didn't want any ties to that cursed place. "Hi, Gianna." "Yeah, hi," she snapped, irritation growing. "Look, I understand why you had to leave. We would have done the same if we could." Her voice trailed off, the implication clear. I was luckier than they were. "But you have to come back." "What?" I blurted out, louder than I meant to. I winced when no shout came from the other room, telling me to be quiet. "Why?" She sighed heavily, and I heard the weight of defeat in her voice as she paced. Something was seriously wrong. Worse than before. Something huge. "It's May," she finally said. My heart jumped and the guilt twisted deeper. "I can't explain over the phone. I just need you to come back. It's important." I faltered. My eyes stung. Once I left, I thought I'd never come back or associate myself with that neighborhood again. It didn't make sense to me anymore. I didn't trust it, or even Gianna. But May, the day I left, her eyes were swollen from crying. She hadn't stopped weeping since Will was taken. "Don't go," she whispered, unable to meet my eyes, sitting still on her bed. "I'm sorry. Something bad will happen if you go. I just feel it. Please don't leave." I knew. I just didn't want to accept it. But if something had happened to May, I had no choice. I had to return. It was my fault. "Arden," Gianna urged after a long pause. "Please." "Okay, I'll come back." "Good. Just be careful, all right? They're everywhere." The line went dead before I could ask what she meant. By the time I reached the neighborhood, dusk was settling. A chill ran down my spine, remembering what had happened here at night. Driving slowly down our old street, I sensed eyes on me. Curtains snapped shut. People vanished behind doors. Everything lingered just out of view. It was eerier than before, if that was possible. "Gianna," waited on the apartment steps, smoking with pale, trembling fingers. The pile of ash showed she'd been at it for a while. Her red hair was frizzy, unbrushed, and her eyes were swollen and small. When I got out of the car, she lifted her head and looked up at me. I couldn't read her expression. She might have hit me. Or worse. Gianna, She cut me off, pulling me into the tightest hug I've ever had. I swear I heard my ribs crack. Her wool scarf scraped my neck. Her hair stuck to my chapstick. "Thank you for coming back," she muttered close to my ear. "Fuck you for leaving." I chuckled dryly, patting her back awkwardly. I deserved that. She finally stepped back, and I struggled to catch my breath. She smiled weakly and adjusted her jacket. "Come on inside. I know she'll be glad to see you." I froze, my brow furrowed, heart racing. Wait, May's here. She wasn't taken. Gianna glanced at me, lips tight. No, she was. Upstairs, Gianna unlocked her door and scanned the hallway nervously. I wanted to ask questions, but I knew better than to do it here. She cracked the door open just enough for us to slip inside. I followed her, wide-eyed as she locked it behind us. Her apartment was a wreck. Almost nothing was intact. Broken pottery, crushed flowers, and glass covered the floor. Anything not bolted down was scattered. The walls were streaked with what looked like dried blood. In a corner, Mateo crouched over someone. His hair was shaggy, grown out, and he looked thinner. It's okay. Just Gianna and Arden. You remember Arden, right?" I heard a soft whimper and then a gurgle. I stood frozen, unable to move or speak. Mateo turned toward us and I saw her. May sat curled up, knees bruised and scraped, wearing a blue hospital gown. She rocked back and forth in jerky movements. "Help," she whispered, voice raspy and strained. "Help me." Her one silky black hair was wild and patchy, exposing red, irritated skin. Her face was swollen, smeared with fresh blood. And her eyes. She had no eyes. "May," I choked, forcing sound out. I turned away, doubled over and gagged on the shards of pottery. Gianna placed a gentle hand on my back. She went after. "Will," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible as she rubbed small circles between my shoulder blades. "A few days after you left, we heard him calling us by name again. She couldn't handle it." I gagged again, but nothing came up. Another gurgling sound grew into a whine. From the corner of my eye, I saw her pulling at her hair until Mateo caught her wrists. "How? Why? Is she here?" Gianna took a shaky breath. "I went a bit crazy when she was taken. I slept in the lobby every night waiting for her to come back. When we finally heard her, Mateo and I rushed out and grabbed her. That white van came, but we got her inside before they could catch us." My throat tightened, suddenly dry. Gianna glanced around as if someone might be listening. "They saw us," she murmured, hugging herself. "There are cameras everywhere. They know we have her, but no one's come for us. It's like they're waiting." May sobbed, struggling against Mateo's grip. "Help, please. It hurts." My lip trembled. I straightened and slowly reached out to her. "Hi, May." I bit my lip to hold back tears. May rocked, head tilted vaguely toward me. Where her eyes had been were gaping holes, just like Shannon's. They did the same to her. They did to Shannon. It had to be a message. "It's me, Arden. I'm here now. I came back. There's one more thing. Gianna said cautiously, watching me. The screaming stopped. The people begging for help. They don't come anymore. But every night, before she finished, the alarm blared, louder than ever. Red lights flooded the apartment with a harsh glow. A familiar fear gripped me, the same I'd felt my first night here, bone-chilling and overwhelming. May whipped her head around, tensed up, and began whining louder, like a dog howling at sirens. Mateo covered her mouth, but quickly pulled away, his fingers bleeding. "May, it's okay," Gianna cried. I moved toward her, reaching out, but May lunged at me, knocking me down hard. I reached for her wrists as she screamed and struggled, but she was stronger than me. Her nails scratched my face, inching toward my eyes. I screamed and tried to pull away. Finally, Gianna and Mateo grabbed her arms and pulled her off. I sat up, gasping and touching my face. It stung and was stained with blood. May slumped, still held by them. I crawled forward and wrapped my arms around her. She protested weakly, but soon went limp, sobbing into my ear. I stroked her hair, careful to avoid the bald spots. "It's okay," I whispered, closing my eyes to hold back tears. "I'm sorry for leaving you. I was a coward." I held her until the alarm finally stopped. The silence that followed was nearly unbearable. My head ached. "Will you stay the night?" Mateo asked, sitting beside us. Gianna followed. "Of course," I said, opening my eyes. "Can I stay with her?" "I was hoping you'd ask." Gianna smiled weakly. "We're exhausted. Would you mind sleeping here while Mateo and I crash at his place?" I shook my head. Gianna squeezed my shoulder. "Thanks, Arden. Tomorrow we'll figure something out. But tonight, I just need rest." Mateo nodded, his eyes heavy with dark circles. "Yeah, tomorrow." After saying goodnight, I carefully laid May in bed. She was quiet now, still trembling. I cleaned her face gently with a wet rag. When the blood was gone, I almost recognized her. I brushed her hair from her face and stared at the empty eye sockets. I was cautious, hard to believe it was really her. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe she had become something else. But if there was any chance she was still May, I wouldn't let her sleep alone. I rested my forehead against hers. She let me, drooling quietly. "I'm sorry," I whispered again. "I should have stayed. I was a coward." She opened and closed her mouth like she wanted to say something but couldn't. Tears came again, and this time I let them fall. When I finally fell asleep with her trembling beside me, I dreamed of Will. He stood outside the building, staring at our window, his eyes wide and mouth frozen in a silent scream. But when I woke and looked outside, no one was there. "Okay," I said, taking a cup of coffee Gianna handed me, smiling gratefully. "I know what to do." "After just one night?" Mateo asked, glancing warily at May, who was crouched, tapping her head rhythmically on the floor. I shrugged. "Do you two have any ideas?" They shook their heads and exchanged looks. I sipped my coffee. "Listen to me." May's head tapped, faster, harder, and she groaned softly. "Help me, help me." "I'll take her," I said, reaching for her shoulder. She flinched away like I'd burned her. "I'll take her out when the alarm sounds. I'll let them take me." Mateo and Gianna stared, mouths open. My stomach twisted, not from guilt this time, but fear. I pushed it down. "No, Arden, you can't." They'll mutilate you. Or worse. I shrugged again, avoiding their eyes. May's head kept hitting the floor. I gently tried to pull her back. I don't see another way. Don't you want to know? Gianna shook her head sharply, crossing her arms. Not badly enough for that. Besides, if you do, we'll never find out. You'll come back like May. Gianna shot me a sharp look, exhaling. Yeah, like May, or Will, or Shannon. Or maybe you won't come back at all. But maybe there's a chance. Maybe I could get them out of wherever they're being held. Like how you saved May. Thunk, 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 thunk. May slammed her head repeatedly against the floor, hard enough to leave bloody marks. Mateo grabbed her and gently restrained her in a headlock. She screamed, "Help! Help me, someone, help! Help, help, help!" "We'll come with you," Mateo said, raising his voice to be heard over her screams, struggling to hold her steady. "No, you can't. We'll come with you," he insisted, looking directly at me. End of story. "Yeah," Gianna added, biting her lower lip. "That's a good idea. At least it improves our chances." I sighed, taking a slow sip of coffee. Arguing felt pointless, and honestly, knowing they'd come with me was comforting. The thought of doing this alone made me feel faint. "Fine," I muttered. "Okay, fine. We'll go tonight. Okay." There was a pause, broken every few seconds by May's cries. "Yeah, tonight," Gianna said, tucking some hair behind her ear, her hand trembling. "Deal. And we'll bring them back. We'll bring them back," Mateo repeated, offering a smile that barely masked his doubt. That's how we ended up in the street. The red glow of streetlights flashing, sirens blaring around us, echoing painfully in my head. Gianna held one hand, I held May's other hand, and Mateo was on Gianna's side. Together, we kept May from attacking or running. People in nearby buildings watched us from windows and doorways, whispering in voices I couldn't hear, shifting uneasily. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the reality of what we were about to do. Just when I thought nothing would happen, I heard the sound, tires screeching as a van rounded the corner, brakes squealing and exhaust filling the air. Gianna squeezed my hand and whispered, "Oh God." I opened my eyes to see 4 men climb out of the van, their faces hidden behind featureless white masks, like ski masks, but without holes, and white lab coats. They immediately grabbed us. May screamed and struggled fiercely, kicking as they lifted her. Gianna held my hand tightly until our fingers turned cold and white, even as they tried to pull her away. I heard her sobbing, and despite this being our plan, I knew she wanted to fight and run away. Mateo barely resisted. He allowed them to haul him into the van quietly, his face cold, jaw clenched. The last thing I remember is Gianna being torn from me. My body slammed onto what felt like a gurney, and the van speeding off. A man in another mask approached, holding a syringe with a long needle. Wait, I gasped, holding out my hands. But it was too late. The needle plunged into my neck, and the world spun, fading to black. When I woke, I was in a silent, white room. My eyes struggled to adjust to the bright light. I looked down to see I was wearing a blue hospital gown, lying on a stiff white bed. It took a moment to recall where I was and why. When it hit me, I nearly vomited. The room had no windows. It contained only the bed, a small metal bedside, table, and a door matching the color of the walls, marked only by a round silver handle. A small black camera was mounted in the upper corner. Carefully, I swung my legs over the side and tested the floor. My knees nearly gave out, but after a moment I stood and shuffled toward the door, expecting it to be locked. But it opened. I wasn't prepared, nearly stumbling forward as the door swung wide. Beyond was a long, carpeted hallway, buzzing with activity. People in hospital gowns moved about, talking quietly. A few children dashed past me, nearly tripping. I steadied myself on the door frame. "Arden," a voice called from down the hall. I jumped and turned to see my friends, Gianna, Mateo, and another girl with strawberry blonde hair, beaming. Between them stood Will. He grinned at me, and I forgot the weakness in my legs, stumbling towards them like a newborn fawn. "Hey, Arden," he said warmly, wrapping an arm around me and the other around the girl, pulling us in. I stepped back, eyeing him closely. No blood, no visible injuries. He seemed unharmed. I narrowed my eyes. "What's going on?" He shrugged, looking around as if noticing the place for the first time. "After I went after Shannon, they brought me here, locked me up for who knows how long. They gave me food and books, but little else. This is the first time the doors have opened. So that means..." My voice trailed off. He nodded silently. The hallway was filled with others who appeared to be victims. Some I recognized. I swore I saw the old man from the first night, the one who had screamed so hauntingly that I still had nightmares. I shivered. "Wait," I whispered. "Does that mean..." Someone tapped my shoulder. I turned slowly, dreading what I'd see. It was May, standing calmly, hands behind her back, shy smile on her face. She looked exactly as she had the day we met, fluttering her eyelashes, eyes slightly wet, but completely unharmed. A strange relief escaped me. I embraced her, lifting her off the ground and spinning her around. She laughed and grabbed my shoulders, then kissed me, arms wrapped around my neck. "I missed you so much," she whispered, forehead resting against mine. But that touch reminded me of 2 nights ago, when I had held a version of her who had no eyes, only a voice begging for help. I bit my lip, frowning. "This doesn't make sense." "I know," Gianna said, matching my expression. "How can you all be fine when we saw you? Who did we rescue if not May?" Suddenly, a voice crackled over an intercom. Everyone froze, looking up. May squeezed my hand, and I returned the gesture. "Congratulations," the voice buzzed, unnaturally altered. "The test has been passed. The bystander experiment is complete. You are free to leave after signing your paperwork. Thank you." The intercom went silent. The air was heavy. Then cheers began. Quiet at first, then growing louder until the hallway was filled with celebration. My friends hugged me. I hugged them back, nearly crying with relief. It felt like that first night again. Just sitting, laughing, grateful for their friendship, before I understood anything about our neighborhood. As we moved toward the exits, my friends joking and smiling, I felt a growing unease. I couldn't stop thinking about the girl I had thought was May. Deep down, I truly believed it was her. Suddenly, a scratching noise cut through the noise. I turned toward the door it came from, marked only by a metal knob. Looking around, I noticed my friends hadn't stopped, still laughing. I slipped away, hand trembling as I reached for the knob. The door creaked open to a dim room. filled with the smell of blood and waste. My eyes stung as I adjusted. In the corner, a figure hunched over, gasping softly and sobbing. Help, help me, please. The body was both skeletal and swollen, wrinkled yet smooth, impossible to describe. It was a mass, a grotesque fusion. It turned its head toward me. I saw thousands of faces at once. Blood, broken bones, teeth, pain. Saw the old man missing his arms, children squawking like chickens. Shannon without eyes. Will. I saw May. Help me. I want to believe that what I saw wasn't real. That it was the monster we feared. A shapeshifter taking the form of those we love, while the real people remained safe inside that building. I want to think it's some artificial creation made for their experiment. I don't want to believe that figure was all of them combined, trapped in one tortured form, a slave to the forces behind this. I don't want to believe May is still in there, still blind, still suffering. But I just don't know. What do you think? A message suddenly appeared on every screen worldwide. Hide. I stared at my phone, confused. Meanwhile, the rest of the group was fully engaged in our Monopoly game. I swear, if you land on free parking, I'm going to lose it. Evelyn warned sharply. Ravi rolled the dice nervously. Come on, just a 4. He dropped them on the board. Damn. He probably missed again, as usual. I tried to process the odd message on my screen. A single word. Black text on a plain white background. In a classic font. Haide tapped the expensive black device repeatedly, but the word wouldn't disappear. AJ. Evelyn called out, like a teacher catching a student. You're addicted. Play board games like a normal adult. Yeah, sorry. I made a few more attempts before holding down the power button, trying to reset it. With my free hand, I rolled a 3 and landed on B&O Railroad. After a brief pause, I said, Nah, forget the railroads. Of course we weren't savages. If someone didn't want to buy a property, no auctions or nonsense. Just house rules. I glanced back at my phone as Hero, to my left, picked up the dice to move his piece from go and collect his $200. Holding down the power button longer didn't work. We were close to needing a factory reset. I thought about borrowing Ravi's laptop to Google whatever was happening. Then the apartment shook for a moment, like the start of an earthquake. I tensed. The background noise from the TV, Netflix's No One Wants This on autoplay, cut out, replaced by a faint static crackle. Ravi was the first to stand. I don't think that was an earthquake, he said slowly, trying not to jinx it. He checked the TV, confused by the blackout. He examined the cables. The breaker shouldn't have tripped. I don't have that many things plugged in. I wrestled with my malfunctioning phone and the mysterious word on the screen. Wow, that's seriously weird. Hero laughed nervously. I looked up as Hero turned his phone toward me. His home screen had the same white background with black text. Hide. Evelyn, who's not a fan of technology, used this downtime to respond to long overdue messages. What the hell? She muttered. What is this? Seeing my confused and frustrated expression, she flipped her phone around. The same message was there. I grew uneasy. Ravi, where's your phone? I asked. Probably somewhere, he said, still fiddling with the TV. Without any clear reason, the screen flickered back on, the red power light blinking steadily. A simple message appeared on the TV. Hide, Ravi grabbed the remote, trying to switch back to Netflix, but nothing responded. Dude, I said, showing him my phone and pointing out Hero and Evelyn's devices. That's... He looked between the screens and the TV. How is that possible? Like an Amber Alert, Hero suggested. Maybe, but Amber Alerts don't take over every device like this, Ravi said, frowning. Different hardware, too. A hack? I asked. He shrugged. Weird hack if so. Government experiment, Hero guessed. I stepped out onto the balcony, scanning the city from Ravi's 14th floor apartment. In neighboring towers, most windows had curtains or blinds closed, but in the few open apartments, strangers stared at their devices with the same strange white screen and black text. What I saw was everywhere. The others joined me on the balcony. Whatever it is, it's definitely spreading, I said, looking down at the streets below. People stood frozen, fixated on their phones. No way to call the cops, Hero asked. They must already know, I replied. Maybe we just wait it out, Ravi suggested. I nodded, but Evelyn seemed uneasy, lost in thought. What are you thinking? I asked. Should we actually hide? She asked quietly. Hide where? Ravi replied. I don't know, she admitted. We're already here in my apartment, Ravi said. That has to be safe enough. A pause. Let's not overreact, Ravi added. This is strange, but not literally telling us to hide, right? Hero snapped his fingers. What if it's viral marketing? For a movie or something? Hacking phones so we can't use them? Doubt. That's Lionsgate style, I said, looking at Evelyn. But hide. Her eyes flickered with resolve. She returned inside to investigate Ravi's apartment more carefully. What are you doing? Ravi asked, following her. Hero and I trailed behind. I don't care if it seems dumb, she said. It could be a warning. Something might be happening. We're safe here, basically trapped in a box, Ravi said. But the message, she motioned toward the TV and her phone, says hide. Maybe it's literal. She scouted the apartment and settled on the sliding closet door in Ravi's room, best she could find in his 600-square-foot place. I'm going in here unless you think of a better spot. Evelyn, Ravi said firmly. She crawled inside, squeezing past hanging clothes to the far end. I'm closing the door soon, and if you're really my friends, you'll join me. There was an awkward silence until Hero spoke first. Better safe than sorry, right? He hesitated, then committed to entering the closet. You can laugh at me forever if this turns out dumb. Win-win, she called. I reluctantly followed, curling up under Ravi's suits. There was still room for him. Damn it, he sighed, joining us and closing the door, plunging us into darkness. I checked my phone. The same classic font stared back. Hide. How long do we stay in here? Ravi asked. 5 minutes, she replied. Yikes, he said. We sat quietly. The distant ticking of the clock helped calm us. It feels kind of silly, I admitted. Remember camping at Sunlight Groves? Hero asked. Glamping, Ravi corrected. Ev thought she saw a bear. Hero laughed. A bear and cub. It was dark. It really looked like bears, she said, half smiling. I heard noises too. Bears at Sunlight Groves, sad patch of trees. Hero teased again. Guys, shut up. Let's stick to the bit before the conjuring doll gets us, Ravi joked, surprisingly lighthearted. We stayed silent another minute. My eyes kept returning to the phone. Hide. It was strange, but the unease was growing. "What do you think it means?" Hero whispered. I shook my head. Evelyn shrugged lightly. Ravi took a deep breath. "Definitely sophisticated," he said quietly. "It's clearly something." I waved my phone. "My bank app is down. I'm screwed." "They'll fix it," Ravi said confidently. Suddenly, loud knocking thundered on the door. "Hey!" a voice called, muffled through the walls. "Ravi, you there?" Evelyn tensed. "Who is that?" "A skinwalker," Ravi joked. "Just my neighbor, Monica." Evelyn grabbed Ravi's sleeve anxiously. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I should probably answer." "You said 5 minutes." "Yeah, but I'm being a bad neighbor." The knocking and voice continued. Monica explained. "Weird thing on my phone. Brad has it too. Says hide, TV and computer, same thing. No idea how to reach anyone." Ravi exhaled. "All right, this is dumb. I'm opening." "No," Evelyn protested, but then he stopped. We all froze. Something was wrong, very wrong. No more knocking, no ticking clock, no soft movements. It was as if the world was holding its breath, a presence just outside the closet. Then, a burst of static in my ear, and it passed. The feeling vanished. The sounds returned. I glanced at my phone. Hide was gone. My home screen was back. The silence between us was heavy. "Did you feel that?" Evelyn whispered. No one answered. Ravi reached to open the closet door, but his hands trembled. "You can do it," I said quietly. "I think we're safe." He steadied himself, crossing an internal line. He pulled the door open, revealing his room untouched. We absorbed the moment. "I'm going to answer Monica," he said quietly and slipped out. The rest of us waited in the living room. I searched Twitter for Hyde, sorted by latest. Evelyn grabbed the remote and turned it on the TV, now free of the message, scrolling through channels. "Looking for what?" Hero asked. "A live channel, maybe the news," she said. My feed was full of confused posts from all over. It was clearly a global event. I glanced at Ravi, who stood frozen at the door. I pressed to the peephole. "Everything okay?" I asked. No answer, just stillness. Approached him, gently shaking his shoulder. He finally turned, leaning against the wall before sitting down. Peering through the peephole, I saw Monica, his neighbor, outside, brutally attacked. Blood splattered the hallway. "What?" I whispered, phone buzzing. The screen flashed again. Before I could react, Ravi and Evelyn spoke at once. "There's another one. It says, again now." I looked at the TV, same ominous message. "Fuck. So we hide again?" Hero asked. Like Ravi, I was stunned. "AJ, what do you think we should do?" he pressed. "Evelyn," I said, forcing calm. "You had good instincts. What's your take?" "How much time do we have?" she asked. "How long since Hyde first appeared?" "Maybe 10 minutes, Ravi muttered, drained. "I don't," Evelyn stopped herself. "Wait, what did you see outside?" She moved toward the door. I stopped her. "I don't think it's good for you to see that." "Are you serious?" "Yes," I said, though lying felt safer. "We can't assume we have the same time," Ravi added. "Do we try the same spot?" I asked. Hero paced, thinking. If it said hide and we hid, now it says again. Whatever happened is coming back. He glanced at our exhausted faces, like he already knew what was waiting beyond the door. That's a solid summary, I said. What I mean is, he struggled to explain. When you played as a kid, if you kept picking the same spot repeatedly, eventually it would catch up to you. Are we seriously trying to apply logic to this? Ravi muttered. Evelyn steadied herself. I think he's right. It sounds crazy, but we have to trust our instincts. And my instinct says we choose better spots this time. But calling them spots makes it sound like we should split up, I said, scanning the room. The limited space made this idea more sensible than I wanted to admit. I turned to Ravi. Where should we go? He shook his head, rubbing his forehead as if to snap back to focus. 2 under my bed, he said, grimacing as he thought. 1 in the utility closet and the other, laundry closet. He stood and pointed to a closet behind me, renewed energy in his voice. Now, I glanced at Hero and Evelyn, who hurried into the bedroom. Ravi nodded at me before slipping into the laundry closet, squeezing between the washer and dryer, and closing the door behind him. I entered the utility closet and tried to close the door, but it wouldn't latch. Damn, I said. Ravi, the door. I stopped myself. If time was running out, I couldn't risk giving away our position by making noise. I tried a few more times, then, terrified, I gripped the handle, holding the door shut. I fought to steady my trembling hand and rapid breathing as silence returned. Complete silence, then that presence again. A faint pull at the door. I held firm, but didn't resist fully. Didn't want to reveal too much. Then it stopped. The sensation vanished. I waited 15 seconds before cautiously checking my phone. The again warning was gone. Ravi's door opened first. Followed. He looked shaken. I forgot that door's broken. I got scared, man. You're fine. It's okay. I reassured him. I even heard you calling for me, but I panicked, he admitted. We're alive. That's what matters, I said, suddenly remembering Evelyn and Hero. Right, he agreed. We rushed to the bedroom. At first, no one came out. For a moment, I feared we'd find their bodies under the bed. Guys, I said, it's clear. Come on. Silence stretched before they finally emerged, crawling, then bending, then standing, alive. Seeing them safe made me want to hold everyone. I felt a brief, deep appreciation for their lives, faces, and personalities. My phone buzzed again. Break time. I sighed with relief and showed the message. That's good, Evelyn said. A moment to catch our breath after all this. But what's next? Ravi asked. Will this just keep happening? We walked nervously into the living room. We haven't even had a second to process this, Evelyn said again. Something inside me felt off. I didn't feel right. Ev, how did you know to stay in the closet for 5 minutes? Hero asked pointedly. She showed slight irritation. I didn't know. It was a guess. But honestly, you guys were lucky I insisted, because you were all stubborn. Hero gave her a curious look. Okay. Sounds like you want to say more, she pressed. Why would I? What makes you think I would? Ravi stepped between them. Guys, focus, he said sharply, but as he spoke, I sensed something beneath the surface, maybe a hidden smile despite his serious expression. Hero, I think your skepticism is misplaced, I said. Ravi's face tightened, confirming my suspicion. I don't think you want to be angry at the person who saved us, I said, nodding toward Evelyn. But even as I looked at her, something felt off. I kept quiet, or maybe the one who wanted to open the closet door. Then it hit me. Wait, Ravi, you tried to kill me. My gaze hardened, anger building rapidly as everything started to click. Evelyn and Hero joined my stare. Ravi looked shocked. I already admitted messing up with the door. I confessed. Why make things worse? I was trying to calm everyone down. He backed toward the kitchen cabinets as we approached. You were on your phone at the start, he said, waiting for it to begin. That's a ridiculous distraction, I snapped, convinced I couldn't trust him. Looking at Evelyn and Hero, doubt filled me about them too. Still, Ravi had to be the first out. He grabbed a knife from the cupboard and brandished it at us. A small voice in my mind whispered we were being manipulated. It was obvious that something had control over us, but that knowledge felt academic as I struggled to connect the thoughts and emotions. Everything made sense yet inflamed me. Break time, Evelyn said. It's tearing us apart. Of course, she would know if she was part of it. We all stared at her, watching for any sudden moves from these traitors. Not a twitch escaped me. It's overriding us, flooding us with anger that's not really ours, she said, showing her phone with the message. Break time. We can't fall for it. A grounded part of me took control, despite believing she, Ravi, and Hero were behind this. Ravi tightened his grip on the knife. We remained locked in a tense standoff. It's all of you, I thought. Then a calm washed over me, like fear fading when you realize the noise was nothing, like hunger finally satisfied. My phone screen returned to normal. It was hard to describe how I felt, clear-headed, ashamed. I looked at Ravi, who lowered his head and put the knife away. Hero turned to Evelyn first. I'm sorry. Then to Ravi. Sorry. Sorry, everyone, Ravi said. Sorry, I said. You're welcome, assholes, Evelyn added. We deserved that. That was insane, Ravi said, like a messed up roller coaster. Evelyn agreed. I didn't fully control it, Hero admitted. Something was inside me. It's okay, I said, growing tired of apologies, especially from me after how I just felt. We should write this down, how vulnerable we are. Don't forget, Ravi started. We just need to keep our heads, I interrupted. Remember. But fear of another again message made him scramble for paper, scribbling while the rest of us soaked in the rare calm. Every moment without incident felt precious. I wanted to say sorry dozens more times, surely not the only one feeling this way. I feel like I'm losing myself, I said, as if in a dream. Yeah, Ravi agreed. We're probably all going to die, Hero said, looking at us carefully. Should we say our goodbyes? Don't say that, Evelyn said firmly. How many do you think are already dead? Hero asked. I went to the TV free from restrictions and turned it on. A live soccer game appeared from a fixed angle. The stadium was destroyed. Players in frame were torn apart. I searched for another live program and found a news broadcast. An empty desk, wires leading under it. Maybe the reporter was hiding below. We're trying to report before the signal cuts out, he said. I've survived so far, whatever this is. But the damage is extensive. I strongly advise. The broadcast cut off with a new word on screen. Seek. In classic lettering, the screen cracked loudly, shards falling to the floor, as did my phone screen resting on the coffee table, and phones in Evelyn and Hero's hands dropped in shock, bouncing lightly before stillness. I panicked. Seek, seek, repeated, desperate to understand. Maybe look for something out of place, Evelyn suggested. What if we have to find what's killing everyone? Hero added. I couldn't finish the thought. I ran to the balcony, scanning the city. On nearby buildings, blood-stained curtains, unrecognizable bodies behind blinds. Then, a lead. A small TV in one apartment was still on. The screen was intact, displaying a word I couldn't fully see. Just 5 letters. It's the screens, I said. We need to find a working screen. I rushed back inside. Anyone have binoculars? They stared at me. Why would anyone have binoculars? Ravi asked. There's a screen in another building. I think it's working. There's a word, but I can't read it. We need to find more. Phones, laptops, TVs, anything with a message. I checked Ravi's office. Computer screen broken, laptop shattered. No luck. I nervously tapped my chest with both hands while everyone searched desperately. Would I have to run to the other apartment? Would there be enough time? How would I get in? Suddenly, it struck me. Ravi, where's your phone? He sounded confused. I don't know. I lose it all the time. Find it. You really think that's it? We need a working screen. It's our last hope. I turned to Hero. Check other apartments on this floor. If doors are unlocked, go inside. Check everything. See if any device still shows a message. On it, he said, rushing out. He nearly tripped over a body near the door, but steadied himself and ran down the hall. We tore through Ravi's apartment. Couch cushions. Where do you usually lose it? I asked. He peeked under the bed, counters, bathroom medicine cabinet, pockets. Sometimes I just throw it across the room. Helpful. I felt the inevitable closing in. This was the moment that might end us. Love you guys, Evelyn whispered, almost inaudible. No visible countdown, but a heavy sense in my chest. A train speeding toward us, and we were tied to the tracks. Ravi darted to the TV stand, checking behind and beneath it, flipping through books and under shelves. And I found myself back in the living room, convinced we'd missed nothing. My eyes dropped to the game we'd started this nightmare with. Monopoly. I noticed the scattered pile of 50s, 20s, and 10s on Ravi's side. He never exchanged them for 100s like you're supposed to. The stack was huge. He'd been dominating, and still. I knelt and swept the area again, more thoroughly this time. And there it was, Ravi's Samsung Galaxy A35, hidden beneath the fake cash, glowing with a new message, smile, and it felt like that might be it. Game over. I found it. You have to smile, I yelled, speaking way too fast. Evelyn turned from the kitchen. What? I held up the phone for her to see. Smile. She forced a wide, stiff grin. Ravi, too, bolted out of the room, trusting the urgency without even reading the phone or looking at me. Hero burst through the front door. I couldn't find anything, I'm sorry, he said, frantic. Then stopped, staring at our strange, too wide smiles. My mouth tried to form the word, but all I managed was But by some miracle he mimicked us. flashing a smile just in time. I kept my grin locked even as a tear tracked down my cheek. My focus stayed fixed on the phone, praying this was enough. And then the word disappeared. I turned to the screen to show everyone. Slowly, our faces fell back into their natural tense expressions. Frowns restored, a collective exhale. I can't keep doing this, Ravi muttered. I know, Evelyn said quietly. But before we could really regroup, I saw another message pop up on Ravi's still working phone, right there in my hand. Point to sacrifice. The others stared at me. They knew. I couldn't hide it. What is it? Ravi asked. Point to sacrifice, I answered, barely above a whisper. AJ, Evelyn asked, concerned. I tilted the phone toward them. I physically couldn't say it again. Below the command, a countdown had already begun. 1:45, 1:44, 1:43. We just stood there, frozen. I felt drained. This was different. This felt final. Ravi broke the silence. Okay, what now? Do we talk it out? Agree on someone before time runs out? Honestly, I'm not even sure what I'm holding on for. Hero spoke next. I hadn't even thought about my family until now. My parents, my siblings. They're probably gone too. Yeah, I cut in. His words hit hard. All the people I'd ever cared about, probably already gone. Evelyn gave a faint smile. I just have you three now, she said. So yeah, screw this. She pointed at herself. My stomach dropped, half expecting her to vanish, but the timer kept going. 12, 1, 11, 1, 10, Hero followed. Yeah, same, I'm with her. He pointed to himself. I looked at them, shocked. Really? After everything? 07, 1, 06, 1, 05. If there is a hell, Ravi added, maybe doing this gets us a pass. He pointed to himself. Let's flip the board. I paused. Every selfish thought I'd ever had came rushing in at once. 40, 0, 39, 0, 38. All right, I said, raising my finger toward myself. Let's do it. 33, 0, 32, 0, 31. I looked at them, my closest friends, the longest friendships of my life. Then, back at the Monopoly board, it really was a terrible game. Why had we always insisted on playing it? 27, 0, 26. Eyes landed on the stack of bills on free parking. 23, 0.22. It only ever got fun with made-up rules. 20, 0.19. Wait, I said suddenly. Follow me. I ran to the front door. 15, 0, 14, 0, 13. Opened it wide, gesturing them through. I pointed to Ravi's neighbor, Monica, still lying lifeless in the hallway. She was the first. We didn't even understand what was happening until she died. Her death bought us time, I said, as if someone or something might be listening. Yeah, it was a stretch, but still, Hydro 09008. We've lost a lot of ourselves since then. But thank you, I said, pointing to her. And sorry. 0X, 005, one by one, my friends pointed to, their words blurred. Apologies, gratitude, spoken like quiet goodbyes. 20010. House rules, I said, and I braced for it. Pain, disappearance, whatever came next. But nothing happened. Instead, the phone lit up with a new message. Good game. Then the screen returned to Ravi's homepage, a picture of a borzoi. He didn't even own one. He just liked the breed. We stood there for what felt like 10 whole minutes, motionless. Eventually, we shuffled back into the apartment. Quiet, single file, like a pack of tired ghosts. I didn't know how to process any of it, what to say, who to contact, or what the world looked like outside that door. I sat back at the Monopoly board. The others instinctively took their old seats, like puppets returning to default. I think it was my turn, I said. I picked up the dice, rolled a 10. I counted my top hat across the board and landed on Short Line Railroad. Do you want to buy it? Evelyn asked. I thought for way too long. Sure. Things keep shifting every time I look into the box. When I was 8, I came across a diorama box. You've probably seen one. Maybe made one for school or scouts. At the time, I didn't know what it was called. It was just a long wooden box with round holes on both ends and several small, frosted glass diamonds embedded in the top. I found it behind the old, abandoned Stonebrook Middle School, sitting neatly on a pile of broken pallets and old insulation. Even though I didn't know what it was, it felt important. There was no way to open it, but the weight, the craftsmanship, and the carving all suggested it was something unusual. Then I looked inside. Sunlight filtered through the frosted glass above, casting soft rays that curled around the tiny interior. I was looking at what seemed like a living room. The figures were vague, barely shaped like people, but somehow I understood who they were. That was the mother. That was the father. There were 2 kids. A small gray lump on the couch arm, probably a cat. They all sat together, facing a box that must have been a television. I didn't know what the purpose of the box was, but it was strange and beautiful. So it felt valuable. I took it home nervously, unsure how my parents would react. I was worried they might think I stole it and take it away. That evening my dad saw it and asked where I found it. I lied and said the woods. Something bad had happened at Stonebrook when I was little, and even now, most people stayed away. He looked it over, then peeked it through one of the holes. Weird little thing, huh? Looks like game night. He ruffled my hair and handed it back. Nice fine sport. You'll make a fine pirate. I smiled, relieved, but confused. Game night. I waited until I was back in my room. I turned on my bedside lamp and looked again. The scene had changed. Now the family was gathered around a dining table. Same parents, same 2 kids. The cat now, sleeping on a sideboard. A tiny but detailed board game was laid out on the table. I didn't tell anyone. They'd think I was lying, or worse, believe me and take the box away. Instead, I kept watching, daily, sometimes for hours. I was careful to hide how obsessed I was. I didn't want to miss anything. The house stayed the same, but the scenes changed from room to room. The number of family members and pets shifted over time, but it always felt like the same household. Despite the mystery, most of the scenes were ordinary, just glimpses of everyday life. The figures had no distinct features, yet I always understood what they were doing and how they felt. I remember the son getting into a school fight, the daughter's first ballet class, fights between the parents, celebrations, sadness, comfort. At 16, I noticed something wrong with the father. He barely slept, and when he did, it was in a chair, far from his wife. Tension grew. and they all seemed more distant. I began to worry the parents would separate. The scenes didn't update daily, so I had to wait for weekends. Then I saw them all hugging, parents and kids together. I cried a little. Whatever the father had been dealing with, it looked like they were healing. 2 weeks later, he killed them. That night, he sat on the sofa with a laptop. Though the light was bright, it was clearly late. Shadows loomed like monsters around him. I wanted to look away, to help somehow. But then something appeared on the couch beside him. A knife. In all my hours watching the box, this was the only time I saw it physically change. The movement itself made my head hurt. I recoiled, partly from the horror, partly from the sensation. First, he went to his son's room, stabbed him through the ear, forcing the blade down with his weight. Then the daughter, her throat and stomach slashed. The box shifted scenes again to make sure I saw both wounds. Then the wife, her death played out over nearly 12 hours. When the final image settled, she was unrecognizable. Just fragments of what once was a person spread across bed, floor, and walls. After that, I never looked again. I put the box in a safety deposit box. Maybe I should have destroyed it, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Somehow I felt like, even if I was done with it, it wasn't done with me. That's become painfully clear in the past few weeks. Haven't felt like myself. My dreams are dark, my thoughts worse. I don't sleep. I get angry over nothing, and the more I recognize what I'm doing, the harder it is to stop. I've tried to be better, but I know it's slipping. I needed to act. My plan was to write all this down, read it over, and, if it didn't sound completely insane, give it to my wife in the morning. She might not understand, but at least she'd know what was happening in my head. But just now, I saw it again. The knife. I haven't seen it in years, not up close. I tell myself to get rid of it, to protect my family. But I can't. Maybe it's not up to me. Maybe I don't want to. Or maybe it's because of what I just saw. I got up a few minutes ago and tried to throw it out, anywhere. I figured even the yard would be better than keeping it close. I opened the front door, ready to hurl it into the dark. And that's when I saw it. Hovering in the tree line, barely visible in the shadows, was an eye. Massive, shifting, watching, terrifyingly familiar, because I recognized it. It was mine. My last day at school nearly became my last day. Ever. It was finally over. Tomorrow marked my last official school day. I set my alarm for 6 a.m., woke up, got dressed neatly, and prepared to head out. On my way to school, I ran into a few classmates. They greeted me, asked how I was feeling. Just the usual conversation. When I arrived at school, our teacher welcomed everyone warmly. She spoke about how proud she was of us and how much she'd miss us. Some students gave her gifts and hugs. I gave her a hug, too. Later, as we stepped out to shake the principal's hand, the fire alarm suddenly went off. Since it was the last day and no drills were scheduled, we knew it was serious. Panic spread quickly. Everyone rushed outside as the principal instructed us to evacuate and make sure everyone was safe. We gathered outside, and soon the entire school was out with us, including the principal. We learned that the fire was so intense that emergency services had to be called in. I felt disappointed. What was meant to be a joyful farewell had turned into a chaotic emergency. Once the fire was under control and the situation stabilized, firefighters informed us that it had been started intentionally. However, they couldn't identify who was responsible. Eventually, we held the farewell ceremony outdoors. It didn't feel the same, but at least we managed to do it. On my way home, something unsettling happened. I noticed a man standing behind the school, staring at me with a cold expression. I couldn't see his face clearly, but he gestured for me to come over. I didn't respond. He was a stranger, so I kept walking. That turned out to be a mistake. As soon as I got home, I received a text from an unknown number saying, "Come back." I was confused until the next message came. It was a photo of my front door. I panicked and ran outside to confront whoever it was. All I found was a note that read, "Meet me at some random coordinates." I looked them up, and they pointed to a location in Poland. I replied, "Sorry, I can't go there. Who are you, by the way?" The response was chilling. "I'll burn your house down if you don't meet me." Terrified, I called the police immediately and reported the threat. They assured me they would investigate and find him. I went back to my room and tried to sleep, but that, too, was a mistake. I suddenly woke up tied to a chair, a knife at my side. Before I could react, the same man appeared, removed the knife, and told me I had 29 seconds before he would set my house on fire. I begged him to stop, saying I'd do whatever he wanted, but he ignored me. The countdown continued. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He doused the area with gasoline and pulled out a lighter. Just as he was about to ignite it, the door burst open. 12 police officers stormed in. They tackled him, freed me, and got us both out of the house. The man was taken away in a police car. I was rushed to the hospital because I had several deep cuts he had inflicted while trying to wake me up. When I regained consciousness, a police officer entered with my parents. He told me the man was affiliated with a violent gang from Mexico known for hanging people. Apparently, I was one of their targets. Though I was still shaken, my parents' presence brought me some comfort. As they hugged me tightly, 3 questions lingered in my mind. Who exactly was that man? Why did he set my school on fire? And why did he come after me? Don't underestimate the shadows. They come with hounds. My name is Caleb Wexley. That's not my real name. I've changed it for privacy. I grew up in the heart of the mountain, west. The Rockies during the winter were stunning, but spring was something else. As the snow melted, the landscape came alive with color and fresh scents, almost like nature was pouring itself back into the land. I live out east now, but the memories of my hometown have always stayed with me. Some might think what I'm about to share sounds fictional, but I assure you, these experiences are, unfortunately, all too real. I was raised near Skinwalker Ridge, a place with a well-known reputation for strange and unexplained phenomena. Yes, skinwalkers were often talked about in those parts. They roamed the forests and mountains, but rarely interacted with people. The real danger came from something else, what some of us simply call the others. They show themselves mostly at night. Some dismiss them as hallucinations or tricks of the shadows, but after 3 decades of personal encounters, I can't accept such easy explanations. Let me start by telling you about the shadows, entities that dwell in the ridges and gullies of the Rockies. They aren't openly hostile, but they're far from harmless. Unlike other things you might glimpse out of the corner of your eye, these beings don't hide. They appear right in front of you, especially where the shadows grow deeper than they should. You'll know when you see one. Their darkness is so dense that it makes ordinary blackness seem gray. They watch, wait, and once they've seen you, it feels like they never stop following. I can't prove it, but I believe they bring misfortune every time I've encountered one. 3 times so far. Something terrible has happened to someone close to me. One reliable way to identify a shadow is by looking at its feet. You'll see a circular void of blackness, deeper and darker than anything you think black could be. And they're not alone. Often, a creature follows them. It resembles a large dog, maybe a Rottweiler or Great Dane, but it's hard to tell. It's completely covered in that same unnatural darkness. The first time I saw one, my friend disappeared. He was a good kid, kind, a bit different, and his Tourette's made things tough for him at school. At some point, though, something changed. He started acting distant, constantly glancing past me like something was behind me. His eyes seemed darker. I noticed it, but I never brought it up. We had a sleepover one night, just a typical evening. We played Pokemon, watched old VHS tapes we found at flea markets. Everything was normal until around 2 a.m. That's when he changed. His skin went pale. His pupils shrank even in the darkness. He was sweating, breathing fast. He was staring past me again, this time with terror. I turned to follow his gaze, and I saw it. The shadow. A figure of pure darkness standing motionless, not hiding, just there. My mind couldn't make sense of it, even though it was right in front of me. At its feet was an even darker pool, like a hole in reality. Less than a week later, my friend Brennan disappeared from his bedroom. To this day, 20 years later, there's been no sign of him. I've only ever found his missing person report. The second time I saw a shadow was in high school. I knew what was about to happen the moment I saw it, but I wasn't the only one who noticed. Everyone in our group saw it that time. We were near the Capitol building, where the forest met a gully. We ran. None of us wanted to talk about it afterward, but silence didn't protect us. 3 days later, our friend Jared, who had been there with us, went missing. His body was found in the gully, twisted unnaturally, mouth frozen in a silent scream. His eyes were dried with an oily, black substance that had crusted over. I was the one who found him. We were camping nearby. After that, I was convinced. I had become the shadow's focus. Then came the hound. 2 years later, during my junior year of high school, I was hanging out at a friend's house. We were in the basement, playing PC games. Nothing serious, just some old titles like Stalker and Morrowind. When it was time to leave, I heard a low growl. My friend only had one pet, an old cat who stayed upstairs and hissed at me whenever I came near. I've always loved animals, but this cat didn't care for me, so the growl didn't make sense. I turned and saw something I shouldn't have. In a small crawl space used for storage, I saw a dog. It was huge, about 5 feet long, and pitch black. Its skin was hairless, marked with deep, bloody gouges. I panicked. I nearly made it up the stairs before I felt something pull at me. It wasn't a physical injury. It was something deeper. I can't explain it, but I knew I'd been marked. Since then, I've moved across multiple states, never staying in one place for too long. I'm running from the shadow and its hound. I don't know how long I have left, but I can still feel those eyes, watching from the dark. I think I've found a few things that help, though. They might not stop them, but they keep them away. For now, keep your room cold. These things seem to dislike cooler temperatures. Get a cat. They react to cats, almost as if felines can see them. I believe cats may have some protective effect. Use incense. Oddly enough, they hate it. I don't know why. You'd think something that looks demonic wouldn't care about smoke. But when incense or even a cigarette is burning, they keep their distance. They still watch, but they don't come close. I remembered first, and the return signal won't let me go. I'm scared I'm not alone. Hey everyone, I'm honestly not sure how to begin this, but it's been building up for a while, and I need to let it out. I've never been someone who believes in strange or unexplained things. I'm just a regular person, working an unremarkable job, living in a small apartment, trying to get through the day. But something's been happening to me that I can't explain, and it's starting to really affect me. I've been calling it the return signal, and I think I was the first one to remember it. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but it feels real, and I have this deep fear that I'm not the only one experiencing it. I'm posting this here because I don't know who else to talk to. Maybe someone out there will understand. It started a few months ago with these intense dreams. Not the kind you forget in the morning, but ones that linger. In them, I'm in this massive, empty space. Just complete darkness stretching out in every direction. Then I feel it, a kind of pulse. I couldn't see or hear anything, but there was this strange sense that something was returning. Something ancient and long gone. I'd wake up sweating, heart racing, with this heavy feeling like I was supposed to know something, but didn't. At first, I chalked it up to stress, or maybe too much caffeine and staying up late. I even joked about it with a coworker, saying I was probably losing it. But then, things started getting worse, and it stopped being funny. 2 weeks ago, I was just relaxing on the couch after work, scrolling through my phone, when I suddenly felt it. Only this time, it wasn't a dream. It felt like a memory, but one I know I've never lived. I saw myself in that same dark space from my dreams, and I just knew I was the first to remember. I can't explain how I knew. It was just a sudden clarity, like something clicked in my head. That return signal, whatever it is, had reached me. It's part of me now. This constant nagging awareness that I'm supposed to do something about it. Maybe warn others. Maybe prepare for something. I don't even know. It's like a splinter in my brain. I can't get it out, no matter how much I try to distract myself with work or games or anything else. Lately, I've started noticing little things that feel off. Time doesn't behave the way it used to. I'll glance at the clock and hours will have flown by. Or the opposite, where simple tasks seem to stretch on endlessly. I'll find myself zoning out, staring at nothing, like I'm waiting for something I can't explain. Last night was the worst so far. I woke up suddenly at 3:17 a.m. No alarm, nothing external. Just jolted upright with my heart pounding. That presence, that pulse, it felt stronger than ever, like it's getting closer. I grabbed a notebook and wrote down everything. The dreams, the strange feelings, every moment that's felt wrong lately. It doesn't make much sense, but it's all I have to try and understand what's happening. I don't even know what I'm hoping to get out of this post. Maybe I just needed to write it out, to see the words in front of me so I don't feel completely unhinged. But I keep wondering, am I the only one? Has anyone else felt like this? Like you've remembered something you were never meant to, or like there's this tug inside pulling you towards something you can't explain? Have you dreamed of empty spaces, or felt like time is slipping in strange ways? I need to know I'm not alone in this. I even talked to a close friend about it over coffee recently, and I could tell they didn't really believe me. They just looked at me with concern and told me I needed rest. But this isn't just about being tired. It's something else entirely. To be honest, I'm scared. Scared of what the return signal really is. Scared of why I was the first to remember. And afraid of what might happen if I can't figure this out. I don't want to carry this by myself anymore. If any of this sounds familiar to you, if you've felt anything like what I'm describing, please say something. Share your story, even if it feels strange or impossible. I need to know there are others who feel this too, because I remembered first, but I can't be the only one. And whatever this signal is, I have a feeling it's meant for more than just me. What scares me most is what might happen if we all ignore it. I was dead for 6 minutes in 2003. Heaven isn't what you think. With all due respect to those with religious beliefs, I feel it's important to share what happened to me. In 2003, when I was 15, my heart stopped beating for 6 minutes. It was a normal afternoon, just like any other. I was walking home from the bus stop, covering the short distance from the corner to my front door, when I suddenly began to feel ill. It came out of nowhere. I'd felt completely fine earlier. Lunch had been nothing unusual. Bosco sticks with marinara sauce, something I'd eaten countless times before. But before I could think about what was wrong, I broke into a cold sweat. Then I felt an unusual flutter in my chest. I would later learn that I'd gone into ventricular fibrillation. I couldn't catch my breath. I collapsed. What happened after that, I only know through the accounts of others. I fell to the ground in the middle of the road. A woman driving a hatchback nearly hit me, but managed to stop just in time. She got out, tried to wake me, and when I didn't respond, she called emergency services. When the paramedics arrived, my heart had already stopped. By definition, I was dead. They rushed me to the hospital and managed to restart my heart along the way. That moment marked the beginning of a long, difficult period, navigating the American medical system, ultimately ending in a cardiac ablation, a pacemaker, and a mountain of debt my family still hasn't fully recovered from. Thankfully, my heart is stable now, and I'm incredibly grateful for that, because what I experienced during those 6 minutes changed everything I thought I knew. It also taught me never to thank God for anything. While my body was being rushed across town, accompanied by paramedics working desperately to revive me, my consciousness left this world. I crossed over. What I saw in those moments is something I wish I hadn't. But maybe by sharing it, I can help others better understand what lies beyond death. It started with light, intense, white, and all-encompassing. It surrounded me and gave me a sense of calm. It felt exactly as it's often described, peaceful, inviting, almost holy. I felt as though I was rising, being carried upward by this light. I passed through several gates, though they didn't appear physical. Still, I had the distinct feeling that they could have stopped me if they had stayed closed. Eventually, I arrived at a place beyond physical reality, indescribable and unfamiliar. While there, everything made sense. But back on Earth, it's nearly impossible to explain. The astral plane doesn't operate within the rules we understand. It resists translation. What I remember are impressions, not visuals. I wasn't alone. Several entities surrounded me when I arrived. Because I was raised Christian, I assumed they were angels. In my spiritual form, I made what felt like a gesture of openness, expecting a welcome. But instead I felt overpowered and restrained, like a dog on a leash. I was overwhelmed by a mix of fear and shame. These weren't the comforting beings I had expected. They were harsh and indifferent, and I was at their mercy. I remember asking silently and helplessly, why? The response I got wasn't verbal. It felt more like cold laughter, detached and cruel. Thoughts began to appear in my mind, drifting in and out like birds. These thoughts carried truths that were deeply unsettling. I'll try my best to explain them. Our universe, like many others, holds only a fraction of the total energy that exists. It's essentially a farm, designed to generate souls. These souls can only emerge under very specific conditions, like those found in our universe. That's why scientists often talk about how improbable our existence is. It's not coincidence. It's by design. But those responsible aren't benevolent gods. They're self-serving entities, with no regard for the lives they create. According to the beings who held me, our sole purpose is to mature until we're ready to be taken to their dimension. The Big Bang happened to give rise to life, and eventually to us. Once humans became self-aware enough, we were ready for collection. Our destination, a higher realm beyond time and space, where we're forced into servitude. Those 6 minutes in heaven felt endless. During that time, I was toyed with by a presence I can only describe as disturbingly childlike, yet extremely powerful and manipulative. It played with me like a cat tormenting a mouse, seemingly entertained by my suffering. The pain I felt wasn't physical, it was far worse. Emotional and existential anguish that made earthly grief feel minor in comparison. Eventually, I was informed that my time on Earth wasn't over. I would be sent back. But there was a warning. I was not to speak of what I had seen. If I stayed silent, I'd earn a slightly better status among the souls. But if I chose to reveal the truth, even worse torment awaited me. And yet, I can't imagine anything more horrific than what I already experienced. An indescribable weight of sorrow and despair. In the weeks that followed, I tried to explain what happened to me, but no one truly listened. Most dismissed it as trauma-induced hallucination, saying the incident had impacted my mental health as well as my heart. Eventually, I stopped talking about it. Over time, I convinced myself that they were right. It was just a vivid dream triggered by death. My brain trying to make sense of its own shutdown. But then, something happened that brought it all back. A few years later, a well-known author visited my town to promote his non-fiction book about a near-death experience. I won't name him to avoid any legal consequences. I attended his reading and spoke with him afterward. I asked him directly, had he really met God? He nodded and smiled, giving the same answer that I'm sure he's given countless times. Yes, God is real and loving. On a whim, I told him that I knew the truth, that we're all destined for slavery. His expression changed, just slightly, but enough. A flicker in his eyes told me everything. He had been there too. He had seen what I had seen, but he had chosen to lie. Because he knew what heaven really is. A place of terrible truths, where our souls are sent not for peace, but to serve. I thought my boyfriend was the love of my life, until I discovered he was drugging me at night. Recently, I started waking up utterly drained. Even on nights I got to bed early, I still felt like I hadn't slept at all. Getting up for work became a daily struggle, something that was completely unlike me. I'd always had high energy, and a few hours of rest were usually all I needed. I was puzzled. Multiple medical tests were run, but even my doctor couldn't find any underlying issue. The only recent change in my life was that my boyfriend had moved in. It was the first time I'd ever shared a bed with someone. Stephen was my first serious partner, and at the time, I believed he was my soulmate. I didn't want to upset things by asking him to sleep in a different room. I genuinely enjoyed his company. He gave me lots of attention, and every night he'd bring me a cup of chamomile tea before bed. One morning I was jolted awake by a sharp pain in my hip that radiated up my side. I leapt from the bed and nearly collapsed trying to make it to the bathroom. "Stephen, can you come here?" I called out. There in the mirror I saw a deep, dark bruise on my hip, as if I'd been struck with something heavy in my sleep. "What's going on?" Stephen asked, rushing into the room. "Did I fall out of bed or something?" He looked unsettled, almost guilty. "Maybe, I'm not sure," he replied vaguely. His indifferent response sent my mind racing. "This doesn't feel right, Stephen. Something's definitely off with me." "You should probably see a doctor," he said coolly before walking out. Back at the clinic, my doctor was still baffled. He suggested I see a specialist to rule out anything more sinister. Stephen stayed dismissive as we headed to the hospital. "It's probably just stress," he said. "Work's been crazy, right?" I silently fumed. Bruises don't appear because of work stress. At the hospital, they drew blood and ran a wide array of tests, including a stress evaluation. Oddly, the clean test results didn't bring relief. They only deepened my confusion. Something had to be wrong. "I'd suggest sedatives, but you're already on nitrazepam," the doctor told me. I was stunned. I'd never taken any kind of sleeping pill, not even over-the-counter ones. The doctor's expression mirrored my shock. He double-checked the results. "Yes, you've definitely tested positive for nitrazepam, a potent sedative." That evening, as I sat on the bed, I couldn't stop thinking, how could that be true? Stephen walked in with my nightly chamomile tea. Just as I was about to take a sip, a chilling realization struck me. What if he was the one drugging me? I quietly poured the tea down the bathroom sink and climbed back into bed. "Was it hot enough for you?" Stephen asked as he joined me. "Perfect, as always," I replied, hiding my unease. Lying next to him, I felt like I was beside a stranger. I began to question everything I thought I knew about him. What if he's been hurting me while I sleep? Eventually, I drifted off, but when I woke the next morning, the room was in chaos, and Stephen was nowhere to be found. My entire body ached, as though I'd been in a physical altercation. What was he doing to me while I slept? I needed proof. Without it, it would just be my word against his. So, I bought a hidden camera and set it up in the bedroom, aimed directly at the bed. The next morning, I felt the same exhaustion. Proof something had occurred again, but this time, I had footage. I opened the laptop and began reviewing the recording. For the first few hours, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. A small part of me hoped I'd imagined it all. Then, I watched myself bolt upright. What happened next was surreal. Like a scene from a horror film, I saw myself crawl up the bedroom wall, moving unnaturally, almost like I was possessed. Then, I scaled the ceiling, hovering above Stephen, as if ready to strike. Stephen woke up and, disturbingly, didn't look shocked. It was as if he'd seen it before. He calmly reached under the bed, pulled out a stick, and began to fight me off. He eventually subdued me and handcuffed me to the bed. Suddenly, the bruises on my wrists made perfect sense. That evening, when Stephen came home, I ran to him and wrapped my arms around him. "Why didn't you ever tell me what's been happening to me at night?" He just shrugged. "I thought you knew. The meds I've been giving you usually help manage it." "Why are you still with me?" I asked. He laughed. "My last girlfriend was a jealous lunatic. You're easy compared to her. My neighbor has been signaling to my kids from his window at night. I'm a 33-year-old father living in Texas with my daughter, Alicia, 8, and my son, Jay, 4. Their mother hasn't been involved for the past 2 years. Not deceased, just not in the picture. And I've managed on my own since then. We live in a 2-bedroom home in a quiet, safe neighborhood. I have a stable job and both kids are healthy. Life was going smoothly until a strange incident 2 months ago. I was woken up in the middle of the night by Jay, who was crying and poking me in the face. I could tell it was fear-driven, not because he was hurt, so I wasn't immediately alarmed. He's prone to nightmares, and I figured this was just another one. But when I asked what was wrong, he told me, "The man in the next house is making scary faces at me." Now, Jay often imagines monsters lurking in his room, but this felt different. He wasn't describing a fantasy creature. It was oddly specific. I assumed he was referring to the neighbor's house. The realism in his words unsettled me. I got up and walked with Jay to his and Alicia's room. Alicia was already awake in the top bunk, clearly frustrated. In the dim glow from their nightlight, I could see her arms crossed and a scowl aimed at her brother. I didn't turn on any lights, so I could better see outside. Their window curtains weren't fully closed, and there was a gap Jay had likely peered through. From that angle, part of the house next door, the one on our left when facing the street, was visible. There were 2 windows on that side, both too dark inside to make out details. I remembered the one near the front was the kitchen. The other one always had its curtain shut, so I didn't know what room it was. I asked Alicia if she saw anything. She shook her head. "Jay's always waking me up crying. I don't want to share a room with him anymore, Dad. I never sleep. It's not fair." That made Jay cry again. I let him sleep in my room that night. He has this teenage mutant ninja, turtles camping tent he prefers over his bed anyway. I started to wonder if the whole thing was just a scheme to camp indoors. Maybe I was being naive, but I let him sleep there for the next 2 nights too. Then came the 3rd night. This time Alicia woke me up, something she hadn't done in years. She was at my bedside, shaking me. The neighbor was making faces at me. The fear in her voice chilled me. "Did you open the curtain?" I asked. "Just a little." I heard a weird noise. She couldn't describe the noise exactly. She said she got out of bed to investigate, pulled the curtain slightly, and saw a light on in the neighbor's back window. The curtains were pulled back, and he was standing right at the window frame. "What was he doing?" I asked. She hesitated, then mimicked a disturbing expression. A wide, unnatural smile showing both rows of teeth, eyebrows furrowed, head tilted in a strange angle, and her neck tense. Then she made a gesture that resembled playing a violin. But to me, it looked more like mimicking self-harm. I told her to stop immediately and not to ever make that face or gesture again. I was angry, confused. The man next door, someone in his 40s who kept to himself, had always seemed normal. At least during the handful of brief conversations we'd had, I couldn't make sense of his behavior. I asked Alicia if he did anything else. She nodded, then demonstrated a beckoning motion with both hands. I had her sleep in my room that night too. I checked the window myself. Like before, the house next to her was pitch dark. The next morning, I dropped the kids off at school and went to confront the neighbor. I knocked for several minutes. His car was in the driveway, so I knew he was home. But he didn't answer. As I turned to leave, I glanced back and caught him quickly, ducking below his front window. He was watching me. I shouted for him to stop messing with us and left. That night, I made a plan. With the kids asleep in my room, I waited in theirs. It was a Friday, and I was ready to stay up all night to see for myself. I locked the house, closed all curtains, and settled on the floor beneath their window with my phone. I started watching Midnight Mass, volume low and subtitles on, so I wouldn't miss any unusual sounds. Around midnight, I heard it, a faint, rhythmic clicking, like the sound people make to call horses. It was definitely human-made. After a few minutes, it changed to a distorted whistle, more like someone inhaling through their teeth. Given how clearly it came through, I figured his window must have been open. That made me uneasy. There's barely 15 feet between our houses. I stood up and pulled the curtain back. There he was. A dim light inside revealed that same disturbing face Alicia had tried to mimic. His window was open, and he was rubbing his forearms together violently, exaggerating the motion. It looked like he was pretending to hurt himself. But when he saw me, not a child but another adult, his expression dropped. The grin vanished and rage took its place. He slammed the window shut and yanked the curtains closed. I let my curtain fall, shaken. Seeing my daughter imitate that expression was one thing. Witnessing the real version was far worse. What disturbed me even more was that I couldn't be sure I had actually seen my neighbor. I'd interacted with him so few times that I couldn't recall his face with confidence. I sat there, my heart pounding. I had enough reason to call the police, right? As I reached for my phone, something slammed against the bedroom window. I hesitated, then opened the curtain again. The neighbor's house was dark, but on the glass of my kid's window, I spotted a handprint pressed into the top corner. The odd thing, that window sits high off the ground. The person outside would have needed a huge vertical leap to reach it. I called 911 immediately. While on the line, I made a quick sweep around the house, hoping to spot the person. My last stop was my bedroom. I locked the door, got my handgun from the closet safe, and tried to steady myself. Alicia peeked out from the tent, wide-eyed. I told her quietly that we were okay, but needed to stay quiet. I sat at the edge of my bed. Alicia's tent was in the corner. To the left of it, across from me, was a window. Through the sheer curtain, I saw something. A silhouette. The moonlight was bright, and the figure became clearer as it moved closer. Somehow, he knew we were in that room. The shadow stood still for minutes. Thankfully, Alicia couldn't see it from where she sat. Then, the figure moved back and raised its arms into a Y shape, but something was off. His arms were too long, almost twice the length they should have been. I thought maybe he was holding something, but I could see both hands at the ends, each with 5 fingers twitching as he brought them toward the window. Thud, thud, thud. I stood, ready to fire, but sirens rang out in the distance. The figure struck the glass one more time. Then, suddenly, his forearms seemed to slice off midair. The arms dropped, and the figure bolted into the night before they even landed. The police knocked on my door minutes later. I explained everything. 2 officers asked about the neighbor to establish probable cause, then told me to stay inside while they checked out his house. I watched them from the kids' window. They knocked, then tried the front door. It opened. It had been unlocked. They exchanged looks, then entered. When they came out, they looked visibly disturbed. I went outside and asked what they found. "Your neighbor's dead," the female officer said. The rest of the night was a blur of uniforms, investigators, and unanswered questions. People went in and out of that house silently and efficiently. I wandered to the side of our home, where some officers were photographing something on the ground. Before I was asked to step back, I saw what it was: 2 severed human arms. Since then, we've been staying at my parents' apartment. It's been months, and while even Jay seems tired of the cramped space, we can't return to our house. Alicia's still too traumatized, and I wouldn't feel safe anyway, not while the person responsible is still out there. I want to sell the house, but our story went semi-viral. Now, it's impossible. Who would buy a place that's become synonymous with headlines like dismemberment, days of torture, and Viney's sister's ex-boyfriend keeps coming to family events? She died 2 years ago. When my sister Lisa passed away 2 years ago, everything in our family changed. We were never picture perfect, what family is, but losing Lisa broke something in us. My dad hardly speaks anymore. My mom stays busy volunteering at every charity she can find. And me, I've been stuck in place, angry, lost, and looking for someone to blame. Lisa held us together. She was vibrant, cheerful, always surrounded by people. The kind of person everyone naturally liked. She loved nature, photography, and being outdoors. Her death, officially labeled an accident, almost felt poetic. They said she slipped while hiking and fell into a ravine. That's what the report said. But if that's the case, why does it still feel like she's lingering? Matt, Lisa's ex-boyfriend, was never part of our family. They were together for about a year before she ended it. She told us he was possessive and too intense, always texting, turning up without warning, making snide remarks when she made plans with friends. I remember her once jokingly calling him a stage 5 clinger, but it wasn't really a joke. After the breakup, he didn't handle it well. He kept messaging her, leaving voicemails, even sending flowers to her office. She brushed it off, saying he'd lose interest eventually. I believed her, until the funeral. Matt didn't attend the service, thankfully, but a week later he appeared at our front door. It was a rainy Thursday. My mom opened the door and there he stood, holding lilies, Lisa's favorite flower. "I just wanted to show my respects," he said quietly, tilting his head as if to seem sincere. My mom, never good at turning people away, let him inside. He sat in our living room reminiscing about Lisa, like he knew her better than we did. He talked about her laugh, her favorite breakfast, pancakes with extra syrup. My dad stayed silent, jaw clenched. After he left, I asked my mom why she let him in. He's grieving too, she said. But to me, it didn't feel like grief. It felt like he was lingering. And then he kept showing up. Barbecues, holiday dinners, even my dad's birthday. Matt always found a way to be there. Never invited, always with some reason. Your mom said it was fine, or Lisa would have wanted me here. My parents, deep in their own pain, ignored it. He's harmless, my mom insisted. He just misses her. But it didn't feel harmless, especially when he began asking strange questions. Last Christmas, he caught me in the kitchen. She was different when we were together, he said, leaning casually. I tensed. What's that supposed to mean? He gave me that unsettling smile I'd seen before. She told me things she never told anyone else. Like what? His grin widened. Like how she wasn't afraid to die. That night, I went through Lisa's journals. She wrote everything. Her feelings, plans, even grocery lists. Most of it was typical Lisa. Lyrics, sketches, random notes. But one entry stood out. I think Matt's been following me. He won't stop messaging. Keeps saying he knows something I don't. I feel like I can't get away from him. I showed it to my mom, thinking it would finally make her understand. But she brushed it off. Lisa could be dramatic sometimes. Don't read too much into it. A few days later, I spotted Matt's car parked down the street. It wasn't the first time. I'd noticed it idling near the house before, but tried to convince myself it was nothing. This time, I knew better. He wasn't watching our family. He was watching me. Then came my dad's birthday. Matt arrived with a gift he claimed Lisa would have picked out. A coffee table book on hiking trails. I'd had enough. I pulled him aside, away from the others. What are you doing here? I asked sharply. Still smiling, he said, just paying my respects. Lisa ended things with you. She didn't want you in her life. Why can't you move on? His eyes narrowed. She told you that? Yes. He stepped closer, voice low. She told me a lot of things no one else knows. Then he said something I can't forget. I was there, on the trail. I felt like I couldn't breathe. What? His smile turned cold. She didn't fall. She looked me in the eyes and told me to let her go. My stomach dropped. You're lying. He tilted his head, watching me. Am I? Ask yourself. If she slipped, why didn't she scream? That night, I called the police. I gave them everything. The stalking, the journal entry, what he told me. By the next morning, when they went to check his place, it was empty. No furniture, no clothes, no trace he'd ever lived there. It's been a week since then. I haven't told my parents what he said. I don't think they'd believe me. Now, every night I check the locks, twice. I sit awake in bed, phone in hand, too afraid to close my eyes. Last night I decided to read Lisa's journals again. I don't know why. Maybe hoping I missed something, or searching for answers. But this time, something had changed. The last page, once blank, now had a single sentence written in sharp black ink. He's not watching. He's inside. Tim, barely recognizable as human,